What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? John and I watched the most unrealistic episode of Matlock, and we're going to get into it. John, how are you this fine Sunday? Man, we missed a week. I'm sorry, everybody. Chaos. I'm going to talk about it in a minute, but how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
John. I am living the dream that is life.
You know what? It's actually a really funny story about how we missed last week. For the fans that were hoping that we had an episode as we normally do on the second and fourth Sundays of the month. Last week you were in Orlando, Florida for Decade Days. And what was it? Was it like Tuesday night or whatever? I think it was Tuesday night, wasn't it? Where I texted you and like, hey, can we do an episode of Mattalk? Because we have to do one. And which is totally unlike me, because usually I'm a little bit more up on things. But how was Decade Days? Let's start with that. Let's start off with that.
Dude, it was an amazing experience. We met Autumn back when we went to Monaco. The Monaco experience is something I've never had before, where you just go and it's like going to a high school reunion, even though you've never met these people, but it's like you've known them your whole life. So when we went to Orlando, a lot of that group was there, and plus we got to meet some of Autumn's other friends. So, and that, again, meeting the new people, same experience. It's, again, wild. It doesn't usually happen once in a lifetime, let alone twice. But, yeah, we got to the Decade Days. You know, we helped to get it set up. Justin more so than me. I was doing a lot of the airport back and forth with the talent. And it was a really good time. We got to interview some people. Justin was drinking one of the celebs, didn't realize it was a celeb until like the next day. It was a really good experience. Absolutely just amazing.
And so we kind of made the snafu that we totally forgot about it. You left on Wednesday, right?
Wednesday. Yeah, we left at Wednesday around 2.
Okay, because on Tuesday, I think it was, where we were like, I realized, oh crap, we have to do an episode of Mattalk, and you're going to Orlando, Florida, and blah 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 blah, and so that's why we missed an episode. Hopefully that doesn't upset too many folks, and but you know what? We already got somebody that wants to give us a quick hello, and that is Dan. So let's go ahead and bring Dan's comment up here. Daniel Snow says, "Hey now." Daniel, glad that you're joining us. Thanks for checking us out here.
I think you donation last night, Daniel. We didn't get to shout that out, but thank you.
You know what? Let's talk about that, because you know unless there's anything else you want to talk about with Decade Days.
There's a lot to talk about with Decade Days. I'll probably get more into it next week on 3 Geeks, everybody. So tune in. But last night was fun. John, you got to be on the podcast more. It might make Justin's head explode a bit more than normal, because there's a different energy when you're on the show than when you're not on the show. I can't explain it, but from the second we hit the screen yesterday, we all were just on our A game, and I thought it went really, really well. With the exception of Max's one joke, I'm not going to say here, but like I thought it went really, really well.
Well, first of all, thanks for the compliment, and secondly, yeah, I was excited for the opportunity to join you guys on the Mick Manhattan and the Scene Snobs Casters for a Cause. I almost forgot the name of it. Casters for a Cause, where they were helping out to raise money for the victims of the terrible forest fires out in LA. And anytime that I can give a little bit of my own time back to a great cause, whether it's podcasting or through whatever, I really do appreciate that opportunity, and always am willing to help out. So Justin calls it the Orlando effect. So hey man, there you go. I'll tell you what, keep your eyes and ears peeled for the next Saturday evening that I have free, that I'll jump on the pod with you guys.
You know what's funny, John, is you were the only John Orlando in my phone. Nobody else had the last name Orlando. But whenever I meet new people, I put where I met them as their last name. So since we were just in Orlando and I just met a bunch of people, I've got like 12 new Orlandos. You're not the only Orlando anymore in my phone. So that was pretty awesome.
You know what? We were down at Wizard World. I don't know if we talked about this, but there's the artist who's worked on a lot of stuff, big name stuff, and I think DC, and and IDW, but there's Steve Orlando, and a buddy of mine was down there, and he sent a picture of his booth, which happened to be empty, and he was like, "Do you have heat with this guy? He stole your name." I'm like, "No." uh, all right, well, man, what are you watching? Let's get on into it, man. What have you been watching recently?
Well, I'm getting ready to go to another convention for Gilmore Girls, so I have started watching that and doing my homework before the show starts. So I plan on binging all 7 seasons of that. But I'm working my way through Dexter Original Sin, which show is so good. Like, it gets better with each episode. It's fantastic. And then the new Spider-Man. I really like the new Spider-Man animated show. The animation looks like the old Amazing Fantasy comic books, or like the very early Spider-Mans. It's updated a little bit, but it's still got, like, Peter Parker still looks slightly older than high school, kind of like he did in the comic books. But I really, really like the animation style of that. And then I'm watching all the usuals.
Is that on Disney Plus?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I need to renew my Disney Plus so I can start watching that, because I'm behind on. I never saw the Agatha show. I know that What If has come out, and I wasn't sure about the Spider-Man, but I'm gonna have to renew it. I dropped it for a while because there wasn't much going on with Disney Plus, so I kind of took a little time out from it. But I may have to jump back into it there, man.
Yeah, I need to watch Agatha. I have heard nothing but good things. I saw the first episode, really liked it, just didn't keep up with it. It's hard to keep up with week to week for some shows.
I agree with you 100% on that. As for me, well, I watched Twisters this past weekend. A girlfriend wanted to watch it. I mean, it's okay. That's all I'm going. Oh, my comment is so. Oh, okay. I thought you ran away from me.
Nope, I got a free copy of Twisters in the mail. Just randomly, one copy of Twisters was sent to me. I liked this movie quite a bit.
I think that's where we're going to disagree. I thought it was okay. I mean, there was some parts of it that I was like, eh, and then other parts of it I was like, well, that was cool. So
it's fun. I thought it was fun. It's not like an Emmy award-winning film. I kind of wish I'd seen it in theaters, to be completely honest.
Well, I could see where seeing it in theaters would maybe enhance the pleasure of it, because yeah, this seems like one of those type of movies that needs to be seen on the big screen. Like I said, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was in the middle. It is what it is. You know, I've never really seen all of the original one. I've seen bits and pieces of it. So, but like I said, my girlfriend wanted to watch it, so we dove into it, and she liked it a lot. I thought it was mid.
Happy wife, happy life.
All right. Well, if that's it, man, shall we dive into this? What is actually, I guess, a double episode, because according to some sources, this episode had 2 parts to it, but yet on the DVD, it's all one episode. So it's one of those other weird ones. But with that being said, are you ready, Jason?
I'm ready, Jude. I'm ready when you were ready. I'm very excited.
All right, then let's go on into our opening statement. The name of the episode is The Suspect, and the original air date is November 29th, 1991. And this, my friends, is going to be a significant episode because it's the debut of Bryn Thayer. Now, Bryn, of course, will play Leanne McIntyre in a couple of episodes in season 6, but then take over the role of Leanne, and being, of course, Leanne is, of course, the daughter to Matlock. But she will take over that role in season 7. So we're getting our first taste of what what Bryn Thayer can bring to the table. I couldn't really find any explanation as to why she joined the cast after this appearance. So I guess we're just going to have to assume that it was another one of those that Andy really liked what he saw in Bryn and just wrote her on into the, I think she's about 3 episodes or 4 episodes further on in season 6, in which we get a full, the full, I guess, experience of having Bryn Thayer on the show.
Yeah, well, he really thinks the character's hot. He said that many, many times. She's about to play his daughter. So that's a fascinating dynamic. And obviously, he's not dating because he was all over this woman.
Yeah, you know what? This is going to be another one of those episodes where Matlock has a little bit of a fling going on, and I'm sure that probably we're going to comment about all the various different awkward moments that Ben has with his cohort, which of course, as I did not mention, Brent there will be playing the role of Roxanne Windermere, and she of course would also play Lily Spector on Suits, Charlotte Finney and Ray Donovan, Pam on Seventh Heaven, Kylie Quinlan on General Hospital, Jenny Vernon on One Life to Live, and a bunch of other roles as well.
You know, it's crazy on IMDb that you not have her as under known for. Matlock isn't on there, but I think that's the thing. She's like been in the most. Like they got her best known for like 2 TV shows that she had 1 episode in, which is wild.
I think we have a comment from Dan. So, Justin, can we pull that up real quick? I'm currently through the Mr. McMahon and OJ Made in America documentary series, still on Dallas season 11 as well. Wow. I can tell you, I can speak for Jason. I watched that McMahon documentary, and man, oh man, is it crazy. It's bonkers. Like, I still don't understand the whole I have 3 computers in my head theory. Like, I don't understand that at all. But I mean, it is what it is. Vince actually, I think just recently, I want to say like last Thursday or Friday, they released some more information about the civil case. Boy, oh boy, he better have a really good lawyer is all I'm going to say.
So I am over OJ documentaries. Dan, let me know if it offers anything new. But like I've seen so many that I don't need to see anymore. I don't think, unless we finally get that interview he recorded where he like talks about if he had done it, this is how he would have done it. I would like to see that, but I'm sure we're never going to see that.
No, probably not. I mean, I have not watched as many of those documentaries as you have. So, I mean, I have no comment at this time about those because, like I said, I haven't watched the OJ documentaries like you have. So,
well, like me, you watched it live, like it was happening on television when we were growing up.
Dude, I can remember at my job, actually, the day that the Bronco chase happened. I was at my job. I worked lawn care, and I just finished mowing a yard and doing all the trimming of the hedges and all that jazz when I walked into the house to use the restroom for a moment, and they offered me, hey, do you want to have a drink in that? And I was like, sure, so I had a Gatorade with them, and we were watching it on the TV.
I was like, why is the guy from Naked Gun running from the police?
Nornberg. I tell you, he's dirty. I love that. Speaking of Naked Gun, I love that whole interaction where Drebin gives the $20 bills. Well, maybe, and they do that whole absolutely beautifully done comedy shtick with the $20 bill. Can you spot me a 20? Sure, here you go, pal. I tell you, he's dirty. I love that. That's probably maybe one, if not my favorite snippets from the Naked Gun series.
It's a good one in comedy in general.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about our second guest star, Eric Pierpont, who will be playing the role of David Houck. You may know him as the sheriff in the movie Holes. Detective George Francisco on Alien Nation. Richard Cole in the movie Liar Liar. Chief Bowman on 911 Lone Star. Harold Tucker on the show Heart of Dixie. Chief Hugh Trimple on Parks and Rec. And many other kind of one-and-done roles on Jags, Diagnosis Murder, Silk Stockings, and many more.
Very nice.
Well, then let's keep this train rolling. Let's move on to our third, because we have 4 total guest stars. But our third one is Constance Towers, who will be playing the role of Alice Windermere. You may know her for her 186 episodes of General Hospital as Helena Cassadine. She also played the role of Sandra Bradford in A Perfect Murder. She also played the role of Julianne Deschantel on the show Sunset Beach. She also played the role of Clarissa McCandless on Capitol. Now, I have to be 100% honest. I've never heard of the show until I read this. And Capitol had like over 1,200 episodes from 1971 to like 1973. My only thing is it had to just be a soap opera. That's all there is to it. But I've never heard of this show before. Have you?
No, 2 when the show ended. You were like 40, so
Well,
I'm
yeah.
surprised you hadn't heard of it.
That's right. I mean, I had my full-time job working for the city, and I was, so. She also, though, appeared in the movie Love is a Many Splendored Thing as Marianne Hiller. And guess what, man? We got ourselves a hat trick. That's right.
Woo! Woo!
Constance Towers was on an episode of Married with Children. No, totally different show that is. She was on an episode of Murder, She Wrote, Matlock, and of course she was in a Perry Mason movie. So a hat trick for Miss Constance Towers.
No, she was on the Perry Mason show.
Oh, excuse me, not a movie. She was actually on the show.
Yeah, she is wow. I mean, we don't usually see that just because of the gap between the original show and Matlock. But wow, yeah. Kudos. And I actually did Liz, she does the little group where they watch Matlock together and they play like a little drinking game, or not just Matlock, Murder, She Wrote. I joined them for that 2 hours. It was fun.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Hopefully Liz will join us here shortly. And by the way, if you are somebody that's just tuning in now, if you have any questions or comments, drop them below, and we'll try to answer them to the best of our ability.
Mm-hmm.
And our fourth and final guest star is Pepe Serna. He'll be playing the role of Walter Padilla. You may know him as Lieutenant Garcia on The Rookie, Reno, Nevada in the movie The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Oddly enough, he played a role as a guy named Pepe in a movie called Lowriders, but also featured, by the way, Ava Longoria and Theo Rossi. He also played Salvatore Lopez in Hotel Malibu, Aardvark's father in Red Dawn, Punk number 1 in The Jerk, and probably is most known for playing the role of Angel in the movie Scarface.
I've never seen Scarface.
Oh, okay. Well, then this comment might be controversial for you. I don't understand Scarface. Like, I don't get the hype behind it. It's a subpar movie at best. I'm sorry. I just don't. I've watched it several times. Just not my cup of tea, I guess. I don't know.
I'm not surprised by your hot takes anymore, but I can't comment on it because I never seen it. And to be honest, I didn't like The Godfather until a few years ago.
Oh my. Wow, that's a hot take if I've ever heard one.
But you forgot this guy was in the masterpiece that is Caddyshack 2.
That's the second time in less than 48 hours we've brought up Caddyshack number 2. I must watch Caddyshack number 2 because I've never seen it, and I don't know. I don't know.
I enjoyed it. I watched it, obviously, but I went into it knowing that everybody hated it. So my expectations were super low. I don't know if that influenced my take on it. And it has Dan Aykroyd in it, whom I'm not a huge fan of. So that should really tell you something if I enjoyed it.
Now, is Bill Murray in the second one or no?
No, he's replaced. Dan Aykroyd essentially takes that.
Okay, so I was going to ask if Dan Aykroyd takes over that role.
I think
okay.
Chevy Chase is the only one who returns.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've seen Caddyshack, but I don't even think I've ever seen it, or if I've seen it, it was when I was really young and I don't remember it all. So, but nonetheless, Pepe Serna, also, by the way, done a couple of one and dones on shows like Hunter, The A-Team, Quantum Leap, Knight Rider, Miami Vice, etc., etc. All right. Well, let's get on into it. The plot for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk about here in a minute because I almost forgot. I almost overlooked it. I forgot to ask you a very important question. A question that I ask you every single time we do this show.
Does Justin have the music queued up? We'll find out in a minute, because
That's
I
right.
just threw him into this without, any heads up that we didn't have anything ready to go.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Jason, are you ready to
testify?
Okay, and we don't have. There we go.
That wasn't Justin's fault. I saw it light up and it wasn't playing. See, he's a professional. He got the music in the span of literally a minute and a half, folks, before the show went live. He was able to pull everything and get it up there. So kudos.
That's right. That's right. So Justin is top shelf for sure. Anyways, there's no need to apologize, Justin. It's all good. It's all good, man. We have some technical issues. It is what it is, man. All right, let's talk about the plot. Ben becomes embroiled in an attorney-client privilege situation when he defends two murder suspects whose cases tangle together. So we start with an opening scene of flashlights in a house. You can clearly tell it's a breaking and entering type of scenario. Theft of jewels, theft of money, etc., etc. And then we cut to the Atlanta nightlife. It's a typical 90s nightclub where people dancing and strobe lights, the whole 9 yards. And there's two people that are, kind of flirting a little bit. Two sharp-dressed men are in the club, and I liked how the one girl said to the one dude, "Oh, my boyfriend's out powdering his nose." So I like that. That was a nice little ode to saying, "Hey, somebody's doing some cocaine, if you will."
And now I missed that reference.
Mm-hmm. I thought, that's all right.
Well, speaking of cocaine, I think we have a comment from Daniel Snow. Scarface is basically the comic book movie of mob movies. Very over the top. He likes it, but it's not the best mob movie ever. That would be Goodfellas. I think Casino is the best mob movie ever, but that's just me. And you like what I did there? Cause snow. Cocaine,
no, we got it. Cocaine. Yeah, no, we got it.
It's great when you spling jokes. People love that.
I like that Justin put in our private chat. John never misses a Coke reference. You're right. You're right. I don't. Anyways, couples. This lady and this guy start dancing, and then another guy comes looking for him and says, "Hey, man, we need to cut. We need to talk. Excuse me. We need to talk." So then we cut to a typical 90s gym. All right, with people wearing very weird outfits. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed how the one guy had like the windbreaker suit on. Like, I was like, that was a thing in the 90s, but maybe it shouldn't have been.
No, the 90s were a wild time. I can't believe I wore any of the stuff I wore in the 90s. Like, watching this, I'm like, this looks awful, but I know that I was engaged because I had MC Hammer pants.
Oh my God. Really?
Of course I did. I was a hip hop kid. I loved, you know me. I wore the backwards crisscross clothes in the suburbs. Like, nobody knew what the hell I was doing, but I loved it. It was great.
I had one of those Troop tracksuits that all the because Troop was kind of like the British Knights, the poor version of British Knights. It was a little bit lesser on the money scale, if you will. But I had a Troop suit.
When the racist stuff came out about British Knights, I got rid of mine. I think I was like 10.
You know what? I got to be honest with you. I had a pair of British Knights, and they were the worst tennis shoes I ever owned, ever, to this day. Because they fell apart like within like 3 weeks. Like literally like the stitching came undone in 3 weeks. And then like, you know how they had the little gold plate thing that said BK on the side? That fell off. They were just crappy shoes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, anyways, we cut to, I already said that. We cut to a 90s gym. And somebody states that everybody wants to talk to, or somebody wants to talk to Sonny. And I wrote down, it seems that everybody wants to talk to Sonny. So we cut to the meeting happening, okay, where there's Sonny, there's a guy named Nick, there's a guy named David, and there's an individual named Tanya. And they're all sitting around and they're arguing about $50,000. And that seems to be the root of the issue between these folks. All of a sudden, there's a knock at the door. And as the one guy opens it, I believe it was Nick, Walter just barges in and claims that Carla is dead. And he starts throwing hands at Sunny, and he claims that Sunny's the reason why she's dead because you got her hooked on drugs. And eventually, this guy Walter is thrown out of the room. I guess it was one of Sunny's living rooms, I guess, in his place or whatnot, and they shut the door and lock him out. So, what do you think so far of this first part of the episode, if you will?
I don't know, man. I don't know if it's because I was tired, but I was fairly bored at this first part of this episode.
Oh my, you and I are on the same wavelength. More on that in a little bit. So we cut to a scene where Sunny's asleep, and someone attacks Sunny and beats him to death with a very large hammer. Excuse me, wrench, not a hammer. Jeez, oi, I'm getting my implements mixed up, aren't I? Anyways, beats him to death with a large wrench. So then we cut to a scene in a courtroom where Ben is basically the lawyer for a kid that kind of tried to improve his grades some.
Yeah, we get 3 clients in this episode,
which is probably one too many, if you ask me.
It's something we have not seen in the show yet. I think we've seen 2, but not 3.
Yeah. So the judge really does not like Ben, and there's no evidence in Ben's case, all right, that the client tried to fudge his tuition payment. So the case is dismissed. And man, I got to tell you, they really made that prosecuting attorney look like a chump. I mean, he was a bumbling idiot. And like Ben just whooped that rear end like nobody's business, man.
I mean, all the prosecuting attorneys on this show kind of look like bumbling idiots, except for Julie.
Right. True. Very true. So as Ben starts to leave the courtroom, he stops and watches Walter's allocation, in which Walter a fight breaks out between him and his attorney. And Ben gets kind of drafted by the judge to represent Walter. And my question is, can a judge do this? I don't think that's something that a judge can do.
I don't think they can, but I think that it would be bad for Ben if he turned it down. You don't want an angry judge.
Right. Obviously, I understand why Ben agreed to it, but yeah, I kind of was like, I don't know about this. So Walter tells Ben about the situation, about, hey, look, Carla, my kid, got hooked on drugs. I blame Sunny. She didn't know what she was doing. She was 18, 19 years old. He's 25, 26, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I got wrenches. I'm a plumber. I got a wrench in my van that probably matches the wrench that killed him, And so he kind of goes off half-cocked about how he'd like to kill Sunny, and Ben's like, nah, you got to stop saying that. You can't even say that to me, And so basically,
you could think it, just don't say it where I can hear you.
Right. So basically, there's this comment about David being there, and Walter knew David, and he's like, he was there at the meeting. I'm not sure why he was there, but he was there. And so Ben threatens Walter that I'm going to knock the tar out of you if you decide that you're going to do what you did to your first attorney. And trust me, I think Ben could take Walter. I'm just saying. I'm throwing it out there.
Probably. I think Ben would fight dirty.
Oh, he would punch somebody in the dick for sure. Absolutely, he would. You better believe that. And with that, we have a comment from Liz. Liz, how you doing? Because Julie's the best character. You're not wrong on that.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, John. I might as well just tell you live on the air. I've invited Liz to come on for the last 2 Julie episodes of this season, which are the last 2 Julie episodes ever.
Oh, okay, excellent. There we go. And I hope that Liz has I hope Liz, I'm sorry, because Justin just put something in the group text that hopefully we don't associate you with punching someone in the dick. Anyways, so
Justin's falling out of his chair. Anyway, guys, go follow Liz at Dark Sea Yarn. Support her. She's a big supporter of us, and I want to get her as many followers as humanly possible.
Yes. So anyways, and don't associate her with punching someone in the dick, please. Okay.
Just keep saying it, John.
Anyways, we cut to a scene at Ben's house. And he enters the house and Michelle's just there. And my question is, why is she just hanging out at Ben's house? Like, it
Well, I
seemed
mean,
like
she has to be somewhere because she hasn't been on this show in like 4 years.
that's true. But like, she was there for an entire scene that is not even necessary. So Ben is talking about how there's mice in the house and he's setting traps. And Michelle and him kind of talk about the case, but don't talk about the case. It's a bizarre, ridiculous, like 2 or 3 minutes that has nothing to do with the episode and should just be cut out and should be on the cutting room floor, as they say. Because I was completely like, this is worthless. Why are we watching this? Jason, did you agree with me or disagree with me?
I agreed. We got a comment from Liz. She's saying, I am not above fighting dirty, Justin. It's fine.
So we have this whole thing. Oh, and I forgot about in the context of Michelle and Ben talking about the mice. She drops the line, "You're girl crazy," which he's like, "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are." "No, I'm not."
Yeah. You got a girlfriend, Ben, a steady girlfriend that you share a room with.
Yeah.
We learned that in the beginning of the season just a few episodes ago. But I don't think that I'm very confused. There's no continuity in this show, folks. Like, it's fine. And you just got to accept it. Which, as somebody who like, continuity is something that I definitely noticed. Like, when I used to watch Friends, I still love Friends, absolutely adore that show. But the continuity in that show is atrocious as well. And the continuity in this show is atrocious. Still love it. Still love it. Just there is none. There's no continuity.
Well, we cut to a scene where Bob Brooks and Ben are at Sonny's place, and they're looking at the crime scene, and it was revealed that Sonny had hid a key, like outside, somewhere outside his condo. Then, which made me think about, Jason, did you have a hidden key in case you got locked out of the house?
No.
I did as a kid. I had my parents hid a key outside of our house. And the few times I had to use it, I was so paranoid that somebody was watching me, that they were going to find the key and break into the house. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, ooh.
Well, John, I didn't have a hidden key because I just used my credit card if my door was locked. I just broke in.
Did you use your Batman credit card?
I wish. But no, I'd break in using a credit card. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So Bob has to go, though, in the midst of this investigation. He has to go, right? He's like, look, Ben, I got to go. John Windermere has been murdered. So we got ourselves a second murder here. All right. So Michelle is at the nightclub where she talks to David Hoke. And it's revealed at this point, Tanya and Nick were the other people at Sonny's place during that meeting. And of course, as probably we should expect, David hits on Michelle Thomas.
Yeah. It really is nice seeing Nancy Stafford in this episode. I was really happy to see her and more, because we haven't seen her like this season except for one other episode, which I know this is her final season, but it kind of already feels like she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So when she pops in, it's nice.
So we cut to another scene where Michelle arrives at Ben's house as he gets mouse trapped, as I called it. In other words, he got the trap enclosed on his hand. So at this point, I'm giving the score, by the way, if you're keeping the score at home, I'm giving mouse traps 2, Ben Matlock 0.
Mm-hmm. Well, the mouse traps, they don't win. You mean the mouse. Mouse 2, Ben Matlock 0. Because the mouse traps aren't catching anything.
Yeah, but they keep, well, okay, fine.
Yeah, the mouse traps are on Ben's side. Like, they're trying to.
Good point. Okay, so mouse 2, Ben Matlock 0. They do talk, they, of course, being Michelle and Ben, talk about the John Windermere situation. And then there's a knock at the door. Ben answers his door. Mr. Ayers is there. He's an attorney, and he's there to ask for Ben's help because his client, Roxanne Windermere, who enters the house and pleads for help, she's been accused of murdering her own husband. And of course, because she's a pretty lady, that means Ben is going to help her. I bet she didn't have to pay $100,000.
No.
Although she could afford it because it's mentioned that her and her husband are the richest individuals in the ATL.
Well, they did say that she paid Well, I mean, we're not there yet, but she pays more than $100,000, I believe.
Really? I must have missed that.
Yeah, at the end, he said that don't worry, she paid more than your fair share as well.
Okay.
And that's why he said, but we'll get there.
Well, after this agreement to help Roxanne, we get a nice healthy eye roll from Michelle Thomas, by the way, duly noted. And Roxanne leaves in a giant limo. That is the largest limo I've seen in a long time. So we cut to a scene where we're in the kitchen of Ben's house where Michelle wants to have the cases switch. She's like, I know you're going to help Roxanne. I think you should take Walter. He's like, no, I'll take Roxanne. And they kind of bicker back and forth about it and why Ben is taking, of course, Roxanne's case rather than Walter's case.
I mean, Ben's hard up for a date. We've learned that this season too, because the one where he went to LA, that was just a few episodes ago too.
Yeah.
They're all crazy there.
By the way, at this point now, there's another set or another scene, of the mousetraps. I'm giving the mice 3. Ben is 0 still. So Ben arrives at Roxanne's place, and Ben is very impressed with the house. Ben and Roxanne talk about the case, and it all comes down to the fact that her husband took insulin, and it was spiked with penicillin, which he was allergic to, and that's what killed him. And so that's basically what we are thinking is the possible murder weapon is this switching of the insulin for the penicillin. There's plenty of flirting between Roxanne and Ben, which again, at this point, I just had a brief moment where I'm like, that's going to be your daughter in a few episodes. Ew.
Well, she doesn't know that then, but it's still a weird casting choice. Like you spent this entire episode hitting on this woman, and then you're like, I know who should play my daughter.
Yeah, right. I gotta say that the kitchen scene in Roxanne's house, and I'm not 100% on this, but I am absolutely certain that setup, that staging for that kitchen was used in another episode. I want to say like season 2, where they had the chocolate chip cookie, like where they had the woman that made she had her own cooking show, and she fed her husband something and he died on air. Like I can't remember what episode it was, but I'm pretty sure it was in season 2. I swear to God that whole set was reused from that particular scene and that particular episode.
Maybe. I mean, it wouldn't put it past anybody. I mean, I'm sure shows use resets all the time.
Oh, I'm sure of it. So Ben interviews the maid, and the maid doesn't have really much to say other than, yeah, I got along with Roxanne, etc., etc. So Michelle chats with Nick and Tanya about the case, and after she's done, she walks away, and Tanya's like, listen, Nick, listen, David, you need to keep an eye on her. She knows some things. Finally, a bad guy, a villain that knows that Michelle is up to no good in their eyes. So Ben interviews the son, JJ, or John Jr., and I like that Ben unplugged the tennis ball machine because, quote, I can't hear over it. God, if there's anything like worse in terms of showing your age than saying, I can't hear over your tennis ball machine, it's that.
What did you say?
Well, JJ's not real friendly when it comes to his feelings for Roxanne. He's pretty spiteful. You know, he was to wife number 1, which was Alice, and he just feels like Roxanne is like a gold digger. QEPMD. Anyways, so we go back to Ben's house, and Michelle this time is setting buku traps, like all kinds of traps, like about a dozen of them or whatnot. And lo and behold, he shows up, Conrad McMasters. We have the whole crew for this episode, don't we, Jason?
We do. It's like a reunion.
I know. So Michelle and Ben and Conrad kind of discuss the case. And at this point, I'm going to give the mice 4. And technically, Conrad won because Conrad did end up getting his hand caught in one of the traps. So I'm going to go mice for Conrad 0. I'm sorry, I said 1, but 0. So Ben is then in the next scene talking with Roxanne when Michelle arrives. And again, it's a very awkward conversation between the two because there's some flirting going on. And my question is, does no one lock their doors in this universe of Matlock? Because again, Michelle just waltzes on in and just was like, oh, excuse me, I interrupted you two talking about the case.
I mean, Atlanta's a safe place, right? Nobody's breaking in anywhere. Just leave the
Well,
doors unlocked.
no, wait a minute. Time out. First of all, number one, as we'll find out in a few minutes, that's not true. People are breaking into houses like nobody's business. And number two, he's a very famous murder lawyer. Like, you would think that he would want to keep those doors locked and secure.
And with Don Knotts as your neighbor.
Yes. Yes.
I'd have extra locks on that door. You're not coming in, buddy. Not when I'm not ready for you. Like, I need to mentally prepare, have an edible, have a beer. I don't know what, but I just need to be prepared to, deal with the shenanigans that are about to come into my house.
Wait a minute. Greatest idea yet. We need to create Ace Calhoun's edibles. I mean, right there. There you go. People would buy those if they know the greatness of Ace Calhoun.
Mattalk's off the rails. Sorry, guys. We didn't get a full 3 Geeks episode yesterday, so some of it's leaking out into this.
Some of it, yes. All right, so we cut to a scene where Ben is pulling into a parking spot, and he's almost run over by Alice Windermere. And she's mad at Ben. How dare you call around and find out information? How dare you?
How dare you do your job, sir? How dare you?
And Ben's like, look, lady, I'm just doing what I need to do. I'm trying to find out who the killer is. But she's like, well, you're going to ruin my reputation.
I never.
Well, I never, as she clutches her pearls. So Ben notices that there's a business card, like the one at Roxanne's place. So he found this business card in the kitchen at Roxanne's place, and he found one in the car of Alice, which, by the way, was a convertible. And I was somewhat alarmed that she didn't put the top back up because, again, me thinking always that something bad's going to happen, I was like, someone's going to steal your radio, man, out of that Mercedes. So we cut to the courtroom, and Roxanne is on the stand. And Roxanne denies all murder claims, right? The prosecutor's trying to get her on, and she's refusing to even entertain those ideas, even though the prosecutor's going hard when it comes to that, age difference. Like, he's really hammering that as his, main focus. But then all of a sudden, the prosecutor stops in mid-sentence. He's like, oh, can I get a recess, Your Honor? Can I get a recess? So we do get that recess. And Ben asks Roxanne about her prints and tampering.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an odd section of testimony because, to me, I didn't. At this point, I'm wondering what's going on with Walter because we've totally ignored that storyline, and it was this is where things start getting convoluted, in my opinion. Jason, what say you?
I agree. I looked at the time left. I'm like, wait a second. We're at the end of the trial, and the episode's almost over. What's the second part going to be about? You muted yourself.
Exactly. I know I muted myself, but it gets really weird. And like I said, there's even Ben arrives at Roxanne's house, and then they end up going back to the courtroom because they have Alice on the stand, and Alice supposedly swiped the penicillin from a friend, but yet Alice has not been in the house for 2 years, but she went and took the maid for lunch. And that's maybe when she dropped off the maid, she went in the house, she swapped out the penicillin for the insulin. And it's just really it's very convoluted. And I know I've used that term before, but it's very confusing.
That's fine. I wasn't so mad about how this part of the episode really kind of wrapped up.
Well, what ends up happening is, of course, Roxanne is found not guilty. And so she hugs Ben in a very awkward way. And as you said, this is kind of like the the end of the first episode. As I said, this is kind of shot as a two-parter, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this show, that it kind of on the DVD is all one long episode, but in syndication it was cut into two.
They go out for hot dogs at the end of this episode.
Yes, they do.
And by out for hot dogs, I mean they leave the courtroom, turn left down the hall, and go to Charlie's hot dog stand.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Conrad McMaster's undercover at the gym. That dude is swole.
Yeah, he's jacked. It's from being on Walker, Texas Ranger.
That's right.
Like, we know why he's not in a lot of these episodes, because he's pulling double duty.
Well, I don't know if that's true, though, because I think Walker hadn't started just yet.
He will start pulling double duty soon, because he's on this show until the final season.
That's true. That's true. I was going to say, you know what? Do you want to look up when Walker hit?
Yeah, let me check.
All right, you check that while I'll talk about the fact that David, Nick, and Tanya have a meeting in which Conrad is snooping right around the corner, which I thought was kind of funny because they were like in a room. He's all the way down the hallway around this locker, and he could hear what they were saying. I'm like, I think that's a little preposterous.
93, John, to answer your question.
93, okay. All right. Oh, Justin actually hit us up too with 1993.
So did Daniel Snow. Everybody. Thank you, guys. Everybody. Fantastic.
Thanks, guys. So Conrad arrives at a crappy junkyard. And I love this because I've seen this with so many 80s TV shows. That he's there and there's the crane with the giant magnet on it, which picks up the car and then releases it into the trash compactor and smashes the car into like a little cube. And so a car is dropped from a crane and nearly hits Conrad and nearly kills him. So he looks up and sees that there's this random villain who runs away and tries to get in a car. Conrad gets into the car too, and they tussle. The bad guy gets out. Conrad takes the keys and starts the car and drives. But then as he turns the corner, the magnet goes off and the car clink, and it's lifted way, way up, right? Is way, way up in the air. And Conrad, the best thing he could do is open the driver's side door, hang out of the side of the driver's side, and wait for the crane to take that car and the magnet over a smaller pile of cars so he can jump off, bounce 3 or 4 times, and then land on the ground, only to have the car be released and it smash a good 30, 40 feet away from him.
Listen, I thought there might have been a better plan for Conrad in this moment, but I don't know that there was. It's just, I don't know, it seemed like maybe there was a better idea. Again, I don't know what it would have been, but.
Well, here's my thing. Like, okay, a better way to do it is if Michelle was there, maybe Michelle could have distracted the operator of the crane for a moment to let Conrad escape. Because why drop the car like a few feet? Because the way the camera angle is, you could clearly see that it's like 100 feet, not 200 feet, 300 feet away from where Conrad is. Like, it's way farther down the dirt road. And I'm like, why not just drop it on him? Like, that's it.
No more Conrad.
No more Conrad. He can go on to being on Walker, Texas Ranger. Anyways, so I think if they had done something where either Ben or Michelle were there too, or they show up and they distract, that would be a way to kind of get around that. But yeah, I don't know. And it also made sense. It also didn't make any sense because why didn't you do it the first time around? Why didn't you make sure that you dropped the car on him when he least suspected it?
Mm-hmm.
So we cut to another scene where Conrad's getting bandaged up. His hands, I think his shoulders bandaged up and all that jazz. And Ben gets mad at the comments that Conrad say. Because what does Conrad say, Jason? Your girl. Your girl.
Yeah, he doesn't like that.
He does not like that at all.
It's not Ben's girl.
It's not Ben's girl. And we get another eye roll from Michelle, by the way. Great. I love the dynamic of Michelle in this episode. I think it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to the courtroom. Bob Brooks is on the stand. Michelle Thomas is first chair. She's running the show. How about that? How about that?
Well, she has to be running the show.
That's right, and we'll
He
find
keeps
out.
doing other stuff.
That's right, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I believe that we have a comment from Liz. So much of the show feels like a first draft, to be honest. Oh, you wait till the end, Liz, and you'll find out whether or not I agree with you on that statement. Jason?
Oh, I've got thoughts, Liz. I've got thoughts because the entire premise of the second half of the second episode is the most unreal. Oh my God. And we got to go. We got to keep going because Grammys are on soon. I can't believe I'm watching the Grammys. But, dude, when I did the Golden Globes, I picked up 60 new followers.
So this is all about the clicks. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more followers. I'm a whore for followers on Blue Sky. That's the safe place, guys. Go to Blue Sky. It's amazing. It's happy right now. No toxicity.
There's no System of a Down on there?
Well, I don't know about that, but there's
that was a little joke.
I know. It's not funny, but it's good.
I know.
Good.
So Roxanne shows up at the courtroom in the hallway, and so she invites Ben and Michelle to a party. Michelle declines, and this is where you mentioned it. Ben and Roxanne take a trip to Charlie's, which is right down the hall, and all you have to do is decide what you want on your dog. My dog. The next scene, this is where I started to shake my head. So apparently Tanya is a ninja, okay, along with her other friends, Nick and David. They're all ninjas because they could scale a house, shimmy down the side of it, break in without setting off any of the alarms, and then everybody come and feast on
you can't do that?
I can't do that.
I can. It's easy.
Well, you, sir, are a much better athlete than I am, is all I will say. Meanwhile, we cut to Roxanne's party, and there's more flirting between Roxanne and Ben. And then Roxanne wants to open her gifts, which I was like, what adult woman does this? Like, everybody gather around. I'm going to open my gifts. Like, come on. Ridiculous. That doesn't happen in the real world. Not to somebody that's like 39 years old. Who does that?
I would do that.
Well, you're okay. You're
I actually asked all my friends to send me videos of them opening their gifts because it's very important to me.
You are such a goof. Anyways, it is mentioned here real quick that that she got a fan from Ben because get it? I'm Ben's biggest fan. But one thing that is showing up is this bottle of very expensive perfume, which I thought right then and there, that's got to be a clue. That's got to be some evidence for how this thing wraps up. Meanwhile, we cut back to the house that's getting burglarized, and the three ninjas, well, they got busted by the cops because why? Conrad had them set up. So we cut to the police headquarters, and the three ninjas refuse to talk. And here I wrote down, what is happening with Walter Padilla? I want to know.
He keeps saying the three ninjas, and I'm like, Rocky, Colt, and Tum Tum weren't there. From the movie, The Three Ninjas.
I know. So we got back to the dance club. Conrad's there. He's snooping around the office, and a blonde lady comes in and starts playing around with this tape machine. And we overhear a tape of Sonny and his accomplices and their dealings about what they're going to do, their different heists. And so Conrad confronts the blonde lady and gets a copy of the tape. So Bob Brooks and Ben are back at Sonny's place. The perfume and polo trophy are evidence, as there's a polo trophy over on the shelf, and there's that same bottle of perfume that old Roxanne has is there as well. So we go to the courtroom. David is on the stand, and we play the tape of Sonny and the cops busting the other three ninjas. David refutes the murder charges, though. He says, I was not involved in this. Michelle gets a list of the robberies to Ben, and basically that list shows that the three ninjas were burglarizing a house during the time of the murder of Sonny. So Ben arrives at the courtroom. Excuse me, folks. I'm sorry. something went down the wrong hole there when I drank my my orange juice there. Something went down the wrong pipe. Sorry about that. So Ben arrives at the courtroom and he wants the tapes from Michelle. And Michelle says, "Why? I can't tell you." "Well, I need to know." "I can't tell you." And so basically, Ben goes to Roxy's place, and Roxy met Sonny at a polo tournament. And yes, the perfume that was at Sonny's is hers, and that basically they're having an affair. Sonny and Roxanne have been seeing each other. All right. But Roxanne admits that sometimes she does not like to stay in the big mansion, that sometimes she doesn't feel safe, so she stays at a hotel. And that night, during the murder, she was at the hotel. And there's a very awkward exchange between Ben and Roxanne as Ben leaves. So Ben meets up with this guy, another attorney called Roy. And basically, he wants to know how to proceed, because right now, Ben has himself in a pickle where he has been the attorney for Roxanne, that he can't really prosecute anybody in Walter's case. So he's kind of in this gray area. And basically, the thing that Roy says, the guy Roy says, look, you got to drop the second client. All right, you got to give it up, Ben. But Ben, he's stubborn. So we cut to a scene where Ben and Michelle are on the porch, and Ben says, "I can't tell you anything," but he does give the tapes back to Michelle, and then he walks inside. So then we get Michelle driving in her BMW, listening to Sonny's tape, and she recognizes Roxanne's voice. All right. So we go to police headquarters where Michelle is reviewing evidence with Walter. And Walter said, "I left the van in the garage during the time of the murder for like 5-minute job." And all of his other jobs were more than 5 minutes that day. So we go to Ben in his kitchen with a cage with a mouse in it. So finally, the mouse has been caught. Were you relieved by this?
I was relieved, and we're not at my least favorite part of this episode yet, so I'm excited to get there.
Well, Ben talks about how he's going to drop this mouse off in the country. Very kind of him to do. Michelle arrives, and she has this theory that Roxanne lured Walter to the office building to put the wrench in his van. And she had already killed Sonny, all right? But she wanted to stash that in his van. But the problem is that Ben says, "Look, we are partners, so we can't use the evidence. It'll be a violation of the bar." And Ben is adamant that he will figure out a way to get Roxy to admit to her doing of this murder. So we cut to a scene where Conrad and Michelle are going through evidence at police headquarters. They discovered that there's only one gold piece of jewelry. Like all the other jewelry that Sonny had was silver, but this one piece was gold. And then what we find out when Michelle visits a jewelry shop is that the jeweler who has been selling all this jewelry to Sonny has been cooking the books. And like he's doing some shady stuff with his books. And he did mention, though, that Sonny would never wear gold because it would cause his skin to get all irritated because he's allergic. So then we go to the courtroom. And Ben and Michelle switch spots. So Ben's now chair number 1, first chair. He calls Roxanne to the stand, and the judge immediately says, "Everybody to my chambers now," because she's mad. She knows what's going on. And so Ben says, "Listen, Judge Roy reviewed all my questions and all my procedures that I'm going to use, and he said it does not violate attorney-client privilege."
It may or may not, but the second that trial is over, she can sue because he can't prove anything against that. And
Agreed.
I don't think any of this back half of this episode would ever happen in real life. And this is the second time Ben has done something ethically questionable. Because remember before, when the one client was guilty and he found out about it, he told them that they needed to go out there and admit something. I don't remember the whole story behind it, but
No, you're right. There was the one where Ben had the client that ended up finding out that that individual, I believe it was a young lady, had done the murder. I think that was season 3, I think. So Roxanne takes the stand, and Roxanne refuses to answer some questions. She does not want to answer questions. One thing that she does admit to is the affair with Sonny. But she claimed that she never stepped foot in his condo, that they always had their affairs elsewhere. Roxanne claims that she's never heard of the Three Ninjas. Roxanne had
good movie
with Hulk Hogan in it, right?
Nah, he was in the 4th one. I haven't seen the 4th one.
Oh, okay. He was in the 4th one. All right. Roxanne has a pal that had a house burglarized. Actually, many pals, as she starts naming the list, right? And so basically, she had mentioned all of these folks and how they're going to be out on vacation or not here or there or whatever. And Sonny used that information to tell the Three Ninjas how to break in. So they had this nice little burglary ring going on. All right. So Roxanne continues to state that she was at the hotel the night of Sonny's murder. But this was the only night where she didn't get nabbed for a parking fee. Like every other time, she had to pay $10 or $13 or whatever for parking. But this one time she didn't. Well, that's because she left for a little bit, right? The maid at the hotel places her there. But then later when she returns to the room to drop off other stuff, the maid says, Roxanne's not there. So she had left. There was a gold bracelet found at the condo. And it's a one-of-a-kind bracelet. The type that maybe the richest woman in Atlanta would have. And so the theory is it fell off during some type of fun business, if you will, sexy time, if you will, and that Sonny picked it up and put it in his pocket. But actually, because of the fact that it had been recently cleaned, that's not possible. All right. So we know that Walter was a plumber. Roxanne calling for a simple job that literally would only take 5 minutes. She's down in the parking garage. The wrench has the blood splatter and whatnot in the van. And in the midst of the attack, what has been determined is that her bracelet fell off. All right. That's my question. And maybe I missed it, maybe I overlooked it. How does Walter how is he known by Roxanne?
I don't know. I don't know, man. I kind of checked out towards the end of this episode as soon as Ben decided to break attorney-client privilege, just because there's no way it would happen. Like Michelle would not. If anything, the character of Michelle that we know up to this point, she wouldn't have gone for it.
Mm-hmm.
She would have left.
And that conflict would have been awesome to have in this show, but instead we get that Roxanne purposely, hired Ben to invoke that attorney-client privilege. But the jury comes back. Walter's found not guilty, and we end up Ben giving Roxanne's money to Walter to help with some type of addiction program or something for kids at risk and whatnot. And that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up The Suspect.
The most unrealistic episode of Matlock ever. Because again, I'm not a lawyer, and we're going to get one on here eventually, and we're going to ask him that question. But I'm 99% sure you shouldn't do that.
Well, you know what? Let's go ahead. Let's jump on into it. Let's get into our closing statements.
This is the part of the podcast where John and I will rate the show in a gavel system. 1 gavel means that we weren't really big fans. 5 gavels means we loved it. Negative 30 gavels means we are going to become thieves. And it's going to be fun.
I go negative 30 then. Do I get to wear my vinyl Catwoman outfit while we go rob places?
We're going to rob a yarn store for Liz so she can have a whole back supply so she doesn't have to keep buying it.
And Liz,
that's what friends do.
That's right. Liz, if somebody asks where it comes from, it, quote,
you don't know,
fell off the back of a truck, end quote.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go first. I gave this episode a 2. This episode was boring. The pacing was slow. It was convoluted. It was stupid to have the 3 ninjas in there. Like those 3, like, it just dawned on me today. I'm like, oh, they were working out because they had to be ninjas and break into these houses. But like, all of it was awful. The only good part was Bryn Thayer. That's the only good part that I could throw out there, because she had decent chemistry with Andy. All right, with Andy Griffith. She played the role of being kind of a seductress really, really well. But that was it. The rest of the episode was straight up trash. I don't even understand why it was double the length, because it just made these should have been 2 separate episodes, and it would have made it much more enjoyable to watch it as a fan of the show.
Well, that would have made it the continuity, because you'd had to have remembered the case from the previous episode. But I give it a 1 out of 5, and my biggest thing with this episode is I was just bored from the beginning to the end. There's elements of comedy that you could have thrown in. Like, it would have been really funny if the mouse showed back up at Ben's house at the end. Like, I would have laughed, and that would have saved the episode for me. Or if maybe even Ace showed up with the whole mouse shenanigans, because that would have been funny. And also, Daniel, please hit that like button while you're sitting watching us on YouTube. And everybody else out there, hit that like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But yeah, it's a 1 out of 5. Sorry, guys. I wanted to do negative 30 because I'd really like to do Yarn Heist, but I'm just not that negative about it.
Before we get to Daniel's comment, you know what would have been great? And I can't believe I'm saying this. This is how bad the episode was. I'd want back, what's her name? McCardle. I'd want her back to battle with the mouse. And you know I hate that character.
2 mouse traps out of 5. Nice.
So, all right, we had a stinker. All right. That happens. It happens sometimes. You know, it is what it is. Maybe next week we'll see if we have a better episode. And I say that because we will be having an actual real episode during our allotted time next week. I know it is the weekend of the football game, because I don't think we're allowed to say the name because it's trademarked. But anyway,
the Kendrick Lamar concert. I cannot wait for the Kendrick Lamar concert. I'm very excited about the Kendrick Lamar concert. And that's the only thing happening next Sunday, right?
Well, that in this episode, a new episode of Mattalk.
Yeah. And hopefully we don't coincide with each other, because I'm going to tune out for 15 minutes if we do.
Hey, you know what? No, we won't, because the game starts at like 6:30. So halftime won't be till 8:30. So we'll be fine. Hey, by the way, Jason, we should let folks know where they can get in touch with us if they want maybe our football predictions as who's going to win next week.
You guys can email us at benmattalk@gmail.com.
And you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Facebook at Mattalk Podcast. Go Eagles. Anyways, let's get a comment from Liz here before we wrap up the show.
Go Taylor Swift, win your 2nd Super Bowl.
The mouse was just the most heavy-handed foreshadowing in the world. I agreed. Absolutely 100% tenfold agree with you, Liz. So anything else we need to cover? Anything you want to talk about with 3 Geeks Podcast?
Guys, go follow me on Blue Sky, because I will be reacting to the Grammys all night. It's going to be fantastic. And you guys can find us at 3 Geeks Podcast everywhere else. Guys, like, comment, subscribe. The goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of February, and you guys can help us do that by clicking subscribe.
All right, and the PVD Cast is available at pvdcast.com and through all those major podcasting outlets. Right now, even though it happened last night, check out the preview for the Royal Rumble that happened, Saturday night, last night, and see if myself and the Pro Wrestling Pundits, my guests, were correct on our predictions for the big wrestling show that happened last night in Indianapolis, Indiana. All right, with that, then, Jason, we went a little long. Shall we get on out of here, man?
We shall, everybody. Have a great night.
And as they say in court,
nothing further.